Ramácharya Srila हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। श्री नवमी धाम की जय। श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री मथुरा धाम की जय। श्री द्वारका धाम की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। गंगामयी की जय। यमुनामयी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। समवेत भक्तवृंद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे। Hare Krishna. All glories to the Assembly. Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Guru.
sarvabhutana vayam tvam navartate.
Not anyatra, otherwise, much than myself, Bhagavata, the Supreme Personality of God,
The Supreme Personality of God,
Radhana Purusha Ishvara,
Pradhana Purusha Ishvara,
the Lord of both Prakriti and Purusha,
the Lord of Prakriti and Purusha,
Atmana,
Atmana,
the soul, Sarvabhutana,
Sarvabhutana,
of all living beings,
all living entities.
I am Tigram, terrible,
Nivartate,
is forsaken. The terrible fear of birth and death can never be forsaken by anyone who resorts to any shelter other than myself. For I am the Almighty Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original source of all creation, and also the Supreme Soul of all souls. Her work facing Bhaktivedanta Swami. Let's begin the second chapter. Without the surrendering process, one cannot achieve liberation. The Bhagavatam says, those who are simply puffed up, thinking themselves liberated by some non-devotional process, are not polished or clear in intelligence, for they have not yet surrendered unto you. In spite of executing all kinds of austerities and penances, or even arriving on the brink of spiritual realization, in Brahman realization, they think that they are in the effulgence of Brahman. But actually, because they have no transcendental activities, they fall down to material activities. One should not be satisfied simply with knowing that one is Brahman. One must engage himself in the service of the Supreme Brahman. That is Bhakti. The engagement of Brahman should be the service of Para-Brahman. It is said that unless one becomes Brahman, one cannot serve Brahman. The Supreme Brahman is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the living entity is also Brahman. Without realization that he is Brahman, spirit soul, an eternal servitor of the Lord, if one simply thinks that he is Brahman, his realization is only theoretical. He has to realize and at the same time engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. Then he can exist in the Brahman status. Otherwise, he falls down. The Bhagavatam says that because non-devotees neglect the transcendental loving service of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, their intelligence is not sufficient. And therefore these people, or these persons, fall down. The living entity must have some activity. If he does not engage in the activity of transcendental service, he must fall down to material activity. As soon as one falls down to material activity, there is no rescue from the cycle of birth and death. It is stated here by Lord Kapila without my mercy. Nanyatra mad bhagavata. The Lord is stated here to be Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, indicating that he is full of all opulences and is therefore perfectly competent to deliver one from the cycle of birth and death. He is also called Radhana because he is the Supreme. He is equal to everyone. But to one who surrenders to him, he is especially favorable. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that the Lord is equal to everyone. No one is his enemy, and no one is his friend. But to one who surrenders to him, he is especially inclined. By the grace of the Lord, simply by surrendering unto him, one can get out of this cycle of birth and death. Otherwise, one may go on in many, many lives, and many times attempt other processes of liberation. Om Ajnantimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Tadati Swadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sakana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakamitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanda Radha Kanda Namostate Bhakta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Om Vishnu-padaya, Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti-vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Astakare Swarine. We are reading today from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, entitled The Glories of Devotional Service. terrible fear of birth and death can never be forsaken by anyone who resorts to any shelter other than myself. For I am the Almighty Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original source of all creation, and also the Supreme Soul of all souls. I am sincerely grateful to be with the spiritual family of devotees in Vrindavan. Honored and fortunate to have this opportunity to try to serve you today. I'm speaking on behalf of Srila Prabhupada, this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. This chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam is bringing us into the pastimes of Lord Kapila Dev. In previous chapters, we found how Devahuti and Kadama Muni, two great, pure-hearted, transcendental devotees of the Lord, came together in marriage. They were both so absorbed in transcendental meditation and devotional service that they literally forgot everything about material existence. It's hard. It's not easy to have children when you're in that state of consciousness. Again, it was Hare Krishna. I think this is a way of making me feel like I'm at home in India again. It was the Supreme Lord's desire to be their child, to give knowledge and His supreme grace to the whole world for all time to come. So He inspired them with the desire to have a child. Then we have read how Kardama Muni, by his transcendental mystic power, he created an aerial mansion with parks, palaces, and unbelievable, incredible heavenly opulences. And gradually they had a child, Lord Kapila Dev. And taking nice care of him as a child, it was the Lord's will that Kardama Muni goes to the forest. Devahuti. She's actually an avatar of the eternal mother of the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was about to leave home to take sannyas, his mother, Sachi Devi, she could feel by her motherly intuition that my only child is going to leave me. How she was crying, begging him to stay. That my husband, Jagannath Mishra, your father, has left you the spiritual world. Your elder brother took sannyas, and he's never been heard from again. You are all I have. You are gently, very tenderly, with great love and compassion, explained to her that I incarnated in this world to deliver the suffering fallen people. And I must do this to carry out my mission. But please know we can never be separated, because you are always my mother. When I came as Ram, you were Kausalya. When I came as Ramanadev, you were Aditi. When I came as Krishna Arva, you were Krishna. When I came as Kapila Dev, you are Devahuti. When I came as Krishna, you are Mother Devaki and Mother Yashoda. And now you have come again to be my mother. We will always be together. So in this beautiful pastime we're reading today, Devahuti, such an exalted person, is speaking on behalf, actually, of all conditioned souls in this world. Just like in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was already a self-realized person. But between the two armies of the Kurus and Pandavas and Kurukshetra, he took the role of a person who was confused, bewildered, and very fearful. And surrendered to Krishna. Please instruct me. And Bhagavad Gita was spoken for the whole world. And in these precious teachings, several chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, of Lord Kapila Dev, it is spoken to his mother, who approached him in great sorrow, calling herself a very conditioned soul. And we find this is the principle of all great souls who approach God. Sanatana Goswami, the most learned person practically in the entire world, so elevated in every way. We approach Lord Chaitanya as the most fallen, the most ignorant. And I'm so bewildered, although I do not know who I am, what is the purpose of life, why I'm suffering. People call me learned, and I am so shameless I believe that. Please instruct me. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu responded, you are fit to be my spiritual master. But this is the nature of a great soul, to inquire in this way. And then he spoke the Sanatana Shiksha in Varanasi for 2 months. 2 months. From sunrise to sunset, he instructed Sanatana Goswami. So that same culture of Vaishnava transaction, Guru-disciple, is here where Devahuti is inquiring from Kapila Dev. In this particular verse, Kapila Dev is speaking Sankhya philosophy from the perspective of pure devotional service, prema bhakti. And as Krishna spoke various yoga processes in Bhagavad Gita, Kapila Dev is also instructing that the purpose and the culmination is unconditional, unmotivated Bhagavad Gita tells Bahunam Janmanamante Jhanamam Bhavate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sadhana. After many births and many deaths of acquiring knowledge, when one finally comes to the actual real knowledge, truth, one surrenders to Vasudeva, knowing the Lord to be all there is, the only shelter. Such a great soul is very rare. Krishna has created the entire cosmic manifestation. He knows everything. There's nothing unknown to Krishna. So many people can give their opinions of what the goal of life is, of how to be happy. But Krishna's giving his opinion that the laws of nature are so powerful. And due to being entangled in the web of material modes, sometimes we're happy, and inevitably there will be suffering. Sometimes we're healthy, inevitable disease. Sometimes we're enjoying life, inevitable death to ourselves and all that is dear to us. How to be transcendental to these things? Krishna declares it's actually so difficult, practically impossible, unless one takes shelter of me. One who takes shelter of me can easily cross beyond the entanglements and miseries of material existence. Krishna culminates Bhagavad Gita Sarvadharman Purityesham Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarva Bhakti Moksha Ishvara. Abandon all other processes, all other dharmas, and just surrender to me. When Krishna says abandon, it doesn't mean we just stop doing. He's giving the understanding that when we actually sincerely take shelter, surrender, sharanagati, the benefits, the blessings, and the purpose of all other processes of religion and yoga are fulfilled. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, story after story, that same principle is revealed to us in wonderful ways. It's an interesting question. Why? Srimad Bhagavatam is the Amalam Purana, the topmost of all the literatures. The fruit of all knowledge, all Vedas. In most of the stories, great devotees are in inconceivable difficulties. The Pandavas, it's not that they just inherited a nice kingdom and enjoyed exile, death threats, attempts for their life, complete propaganda to blaspheme them by the rulers of the world. And yet they took shelter of Krishna. That is their real detachment. That is their real knowledge. They took shelter of Krishna. And Yudhisthira Maharaj became Kunti Devi was in desperation. So many calamities were upon me because anything my children were suffering, it was in an amplified way affecting me. We had nowhere to go except you. We had no other shelter but your mercy. So we were constantly taking shelter of you. But now everything's nice. Everything's prosperous. We have power. We have popularity. We have all the opulences. Now I'm feeling very worried. How will I take shelter of you? Let these calamities come again so that I can surrender. Who can say such a prayer? Let's all try. Because if you don't have the realization, you might not be able to do it. If we see a beautiful bird flying in the sky, you just can't do it. The path of perfection is to follow in the footsteps of the great souls. To understand, to emulate the spirit of Kunti Devi and try to make that like a compass, like a north star that's helping us to pass through all various circumstances of life. Vrindavan Maharaj, that little 5-year-old boy, how broken-hearted he was by the abusive words of his stepmother. And how broken he was, feeling totally betrayed by his own father, who didn't stand up for him. Even we, when we're children, we just kind of run to our bedrooms and cry. After all, he was so devastated. He didn't run to his bedroom. He left the palace, he left the kingdom, and he went to the deepest, darkest recesses of the forest. When he went crying to his mother tried to pacify him with her love. She said, "What your stepmother said is true. If you worship the Supreme Lord, that is your only hope. Where is the Lord? The sages say, the sages go to the forest to find him. He went to the forest. And by his sincerity, he met Narada Muni and learned the process of pure bhakti. And ultimately, by surrendering to Krishna, Krishna appeared. And little Prahlad, when Hiranyakashipu asked him, "Prahlad, what is the best thing you learned in school?" He knew who his father was. He knew his nature. Prahlad, he could have said, mathematics. Sanskrit literature. But he said, my dear father, the best thing I learned in school is that people like you don't take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or the bodily concept of life and thinking in terms of I and mine. You are stuck at the bottom of a deep well and you can't get out.
Haribol.
You should go to the forest of Vrindavan and take shelter of Krishna. Anyways, his father, very angry, sent him back to school with the demand that the teachers teach him the right things. He was so respectful, so kind, so polite to everyone. He never argued with anyone. Teachers thought, what a wonderful student. They brought him back to the Father. We're so proud of him. You know, Kashipu asked, please tell me also that Brahman is led. Brahman is done to what Brahman is. And Kashipu was crying with fatherly affection, lifting his Brahman and putting on his lap. And he's describing Bhagavatam. Tears were in his eyes of affection, and he was smelling his head. Sannyasis don't know so much about that culture. But it was out of just such intimacy. And he said, oh, Prabhupada, my best son, tell me, what have you learned? Prabhupada is so many beautiful verses. That my Father, either by your own efforts or even with the help of others, as long as you're so addicted to this material conception of life, you cannot know Krishna is the goal of life. You are simply chewing that which has already been chewed. Shravanam Kirtanam Krishna Smaranam Padasevanam. You should follow the 9 processes of devotion and service. Hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, it begins in associating with devotees and always remembering the Lord. And then Prahlad said, he was so happy saying these things, and he was making his father so miserable. He said, my dear father, if you really give up your ignorance, the only path by which one can attain the goal of life of love of Krishna is you must bathe yourself in the dust of the feet of the pure devotees of the Lord. At that point, Hiranyakashipu threw him off his lap, and with such anger, he ordered his army, kill him by any means, kill him. He is my enemy. And Lord Nisringadev ultimately came because Prahlad took shelter. When Holiness Maharaj was attacked by the great powerful mystic Yogi, the avatar of Lord Shiva Durvasana, he just took shelter of Krishna, surrendered. He didn't even do anything. Prahlad didn't do anything either. He just surrendered. We don't see that Prahlad was wrestling with the snakes or trying to do some martial arts against those stabbing him. He was just surrendering to Krishna. And Ambarish surrendering his wife, children, and so many worldly responsibilities. Durvasana was his greatest sannyasi with tens and thousands of disciples. And ultimately, Durvasana, after going to Vishnu, please protect me from your chakra. Vishnu said, I cannot protect you. Durvasana was bewildered. How could you not protect me? It is your chakra, under your control. It is not under my control. I am under the control of my devotees who love me. I am in the hearts of my devotees, and I know no one but them. And my devotees are in my heart, and they know no one but me. I'm helpless. But if you get forgiveness and blessings of Ambarish, I will be protected. So Srimad Bhagavatam is again and again in every story describing in the context of difficulties how devotees take shelter. And how Krishna gives shelter. Yayadhamam prapadyante tamsthataiva bhajanjaya mavavartate manushivartasara. According to how one surrenders, I Maropila kopi jogi chatohar Nityada saprati tuma adhikar. My dear Nanda Kumar Krishna, if you like, you can protect me. Or if you like, you can kill me. You can do anything you like with me. Because I am your servant unconditionally. The same spirit is actually the highest revelation revealed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ashna Siva Bhadradham Anashima. This is in the mood of Sri Radharani at the very culmination of the Shikshastakam. Where Chaitanya is praying, Krishna, if you like, you can embrace me. If you like, you can trample upon me. Or if it is your wish, you can make me broken-hearted by not being present before me. You have every right to deal with me in any way you like, because I am your servant, unconditioned. This is love. How is it possible to have such a state of consciousness? And Shikshastakam, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving step by step how we attain this goal of pure, ecstatic, unmotivated love to surrender. This is a prerequisite. And it's so difficult. How we need to humble ourselves to learn to be humble, like a blade of grass, forgiving like a tree, happy when we're giving respect to others, and not feeling any need or expectation to receive respect. These qualities alone do not make us Krishna conscious. But when we have these qualities and we sincerely take shelter of the holy names of Lord Hari, that is the path of Krishna consciousness. In the culmination of Srimad Bhagavatam, the 10th canto, still, every day, there was, whether it's every day, but often, demons were coming to Vrindavan. It's very fascinating. The Gokula Vrindavan of this world is not different than the Goloka Vrindavan in the eternal spiritual world. There's no demons there. In Goloka Vrindavan, there's simply ecstatic, ever-increasing, loving relationships and play. But Sukadeva Goswami, when he's describing the Vrindavan pastimes, the very culmination of Srimad Bhagavatam, the highest was in, where he's giving so much emphasis on this really deep kind. And how in every place the virgin persons have to take shelter. Crying just at the right time. Srila Prabhupada taught us we should learn to cry like the baby. Cry for Krishna, like the baby's crying for mother. And we see Radha Priti Devi as Krishna's representative, mother. As soon as the baby cried, she picked up the baby into her arms and embraced. And now baby's happy.
playful games with Krishna and Balaramji. In Bandiravan, there's a banyan tree called Bandiravan. Have any of you been there? Please hands if you have been to Bandiravan. The same tree is still there. But at the time of Krishna, it was so big. One particular branch kind of was like a bridge that grew from the tree over the entire Yamuna River. And in those days, the Yamuna River was very wide and very full. People were necking ecstatic love of Yamuna Devi flowing. And the cowherd boys, when they would play to cross the river, they would just run across the branch and Bandiravan. So they were so immersed, so absorbed in giving pleasure to Krishna and Balaram and receiving the mercy of Krishna Balaram through joking and wrestling and playing. Vrindavan is close by and places using fruits as balls and like that. Being so absorbed, they didn't notice the cows, the goats, the buffaloes, all the animals in their herd. They wandered farther and farther and farther away. They came to a forest very far away. It's called Munchatabi. And there was no grass in the ground, only sharp canes. They were so hungry, so thirsty, and actually they were completely lost. They didn't know where to go. Nearby, there was a blazing forest fire. That forest fire was coming closer and closer. The cows, the goats, the buffaloes were in such a state of desperation. They were starving for food, starving for water. They were being burned by the heat of this nearby forest fire. They were utterly exhausted, and they didn't know where to go. They began to cry out to Krishna. Meanwhile, the cowherd boys, they didn't hear the crying and screaming of the animals. They were just so absorbed in playing. And then they noticed that all the cows, buffaloes, and goats were nowhere around. It's their responsibility to protect them, to bring them to fresh grasses so they'll be happy. They were looking everywhere. There was no trace of them. The boys fell into a state of anxiety. This is an interesting question, because when we get philosophical about Krishna's pastimes, it's very important to understand the deep conceptions of rasa, or loving relationships and levels. If you were totally engrossed, directly and personally, in playing with Krishna and Balaram, you're playing flutes together with them, and you're jumping with them, and you're wrestling with them, and you're doing so many things, and you're singing them. And they're saying to you, is there a question of being in anxiety? Yes, for the cowherd boys, because being with Krishna was not for their sense gratification, it was for Krishna's sense gratification. And the highest ecstasy when you water the root of the tree, naturally every part of the tree gets fully nourished with happiness. They knew how
they're gone, if they're in any type of danger, how that will displease Krishna. Their anxiety was an anxiety of compassion. And Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas described as Srila Prabhupada is telling in his purport today, liberation, mukti, without pure love is incomplete and unsustainable for the eternal soul. Lord Chaitanya taught you better swear before Krishna than anything else. The nature of the soul is to serve Krishna. Prema Punartama. That the real goal of life is to love Krishna, because that's the innermost nature of the soul. So feeling that the cows are lost and maybe suffering caused them so much anxiety even while they were playing with Krishna. Because the anxiety of compassion in the spirit of giving people Krishna, giving people Krishna shelter, is infinitely higher than the bliss of being merged in the Brahman. It's higher than liberation. Because it's more pleasing to Krishna. So they were desperate to find the cows. And the cows were in a very, very mysterious place and nobody knew where they were. They were desperate to be found. The Gopas together, they were searching for hoofprints of cows, goats, and buffaloes. They were following those footprints. And when there was grass and no footprints was there, they were searching meticulously for any blades of grass that were cut by the teeth of the cows. In this way, they went deeper and deeper into the jungle until they came to the Munjatavi forest. And there, the cows, in great desperation, cried out, Krishna, so sweetly, yet with the resonance of rumbling clouds. He chanted the name of each cow simultaneously. That is Krishna. Rasa Vihari. If I say Bhagavata Prabhu, then all of you just think I'm saying Bhagavata. Because I'm just an infinitesimal Jivatma trying to serve Bhagavata Prabhu. But Krishna, you can say one name, and every cow, every goat, every buffalo, every tree, everyone in the forest was thinking, he's saying my name only. And actually, he is. Krishna can simultaneously to hundreds and thousands of cows, he can say the name of each cow by just saying one name. And in his heart, he's not only saying, he's not only calling out to everyone, but he's personally calling out to this cow. That's how Krishna values his devotee. Every single devotee feels completely valued by Krishna. Even though the devotees are never envious to see Krishna doing beautiful things with others, every devotee is thinking, Krishna loves me so personally and so deeply. And Krishna's mine, I'm his. And when we actually feel Krishna's presence in our heart, there's no possibility of being envious of others. Envy is simply a lack of feeling
compete. They only compete to help others to please Krishna more. They don't compete to put myself higher, because everyone already feels themselves the highest. And yet everyone knows everyone else feels himself the highest. That's the spiritual world, Vaikuntha. So now they're still thirsty, they're still hungry, but now they're completely satisfied because they hear Krishna chanting their name. But suddenly, that forest fire closed in and surrounded them. This type of forest fire, we read about newspapers, or I don't think there's newspapers anymore. News, internets or whatever. So many forest fires, so many floods, so many difficulties. The residents of Vrindavan, they endured all these things. As far as floods, when Indra sent those torrential rains, there was no flood in creation like that. That is the flood that devastates the whole universe. It was all sent to Vrindavan. And when these heavy rains and floods were coming, what did the Brijavasis do? Their umbrellas didn't work. They took shelter of Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Mahava. And on this day, this forest fire is described. It was closing in closer and closer and closer. Massive walls of solid fire that were reaching the sky. The heat, the blaze was intolerable. All the cowherd boys, all the buffaloes, goats, cows, they all looked at Krishna. Meanwhile, massive winds started blowing, and that was getting the fire to swirl in every direction. It was actually a fire of universal devastation. They turned to Krishna, all of them in the cowherd boys. They said, Krishna, please, please protect us. We are about to be burned to death. Krishna smiled. He said, do not fear. Just close your eyes. Such innocent faith. The cowherd boys all just closed their eyes. At that moment, Krishna's mouth was only about this big. A child's mouth didn't grow. With his little mouth, Krishna just sucked in one breath. Like that. In a moment, the entire enormous universal fire of destruction that was surrounding everyone entered into his mouth and disappeared forever. Krishna said, now you can open your eyes. And they opened their eyes. And there was no fire. Not only no fire, but they were all under the beautiful, soothing shade of a deer pot. With all the cows and the goats and the buffaloes. And they continued playing. Why did Krishna tell them to close their eyes? Everything Krishna does has so many different lessons to learn from that. One is,
he was demonstrating the simple, innocent, pure faith of the Haribols. They may be joking with Krishna, they may be playing with Krishna, they may be fighting with Krishna for Krishna's pleasure as little children. But deep down, Krishna's their only shelter. That is their love. They had that complete faith in their friend. That's all they had to do. They didn't have to call fire departments. All they had to do was close their eyes. Because that's what Krishna wanted. Such innocent faith. And such an elevated platform to have such innocent faith. Some people may have to spend lifetimes and lifetimes studying philosophy and understanding various sciences and principles and faith literatures and other scriptures just to get a glimpse of that innocent faith that the common boys had at that time. I belong to Krishna. But there's another reason. Because when Krishna was a younger child, one day at Brahmandagat, on the bank of Yamuna, he ate dirt. And the common boys told Yashoda Mai, Krishna ate dirt. And Yashoda Mai was so worried. It's not that she was just angry, she was worried. Krishna's eating dirt. He chastises Krishna. But you are eating dirt. You will get sick. How will you remain healthy eating dirt? I'm giving you so many sweetmeats and you're stealing so much butter and all these things. Why do you have to eat dirt? Krishna's reply, Mother, I never ate dirt. Balaram said he did eat dirt. All the Haribol said he did eat dirt. Yashoda Mai said, why are they saying you ate dirt? Balaram is always on your side. Whenever you steal butter, he's there. Why would you speak these things? Krishna's reply, they are all lying against me. So Yashoda Mai, she said, Krishna, please don't be dirt. This is driving me crazy. Open your mouth, let me see. And Krishna said, yes, you can see. Open his mouth. But the reality is, he did eat dirt. Now you may say, how could Krishna lie? How can the absolute truth say something that's not truthful? He never says anything that's not true. Because the purpose he was saying that I didn't eat dirt was only to increase his mother's love. His bhakti-vatsala. The highest truth is Krishna's exchanging love with his devotees. It's transcendental to material moralities. We cannot imitate that. But we can aspire and worship that love of Yashoda. Just so that she wouldn't see the dirt that he ate when she lived in the mouth. He also created within his mouth the entire universe. She saw the planets. She saw living entities. She saw Vrindavan. She saw herself looking at Krishna's mouth. What she was seeing, all the rivers, all the oceans, all the mountains, all the skies, all the stars, all the sunset. Unbelievable. So she noticed the dirt. She was so captivated by that. And she started offering prayers. She didn't accept Krishna as God. She just bewildered. How is this possible? What am I seeing? How is
thinking I'm his mother. Krishna's thinking, if she's feeling that I'm great like this, then who will feed me milk when I'm thirsty? And who will embrace me when I'm afraid? So he smiled, closed his mouth and smiled, and she forgot that whole thing and just saw her beautiful baby Krishna. So Krishna was thinking, if Yashoda was in so much anxiety because I ate dirt, how much she will be disturbed if they tell her that I ate an entire forest fire. And with the eating of dirt, they all told on him. So he didn't trust. He couldn't just say, don't tell anyone. Because they're both going to say, do what they like. For Krishna's pleasure. So they closed their eyes. So actually nobody knew what he did. In a blazing forest fire, they were about to die, being burned to death. And suddenly they closed their eyes, and a moment later they go like, it's just a beautiful day with cool breezes on the bank of the Yamuna. They'd been there. They didn't ask any questions. They just played. So we find on every level of our beautiful scriptures that bhakti is sincere devotion, how to please Krishna, how to love Krishna, and how to understand that Krishna is our only shelter. And we find in these beautiful stories that when a devotee has no other shelter than Krishna in devotion and love, Krishna takes shelter of the devotee's love. That is perhaps the most inconceivable, highest understanding of all knowledge. How the Supreme Great feels that an insignificant, infinitesimal little part and parcel is so great that he supported it and takes shelter of their love. May I tell one more story?
Yes. Yeah, Haribol.
In honor of Krishna in the form of time. Krishna declares in Bhagavad Gita, time and so we must respect time. Please forgive me. That eagerness to please the Lord is so much a way of taking shelter. When the cowherd boys and the cows and buffaloes and goats were in such a desperate situation, they're taking shelter. It was very much part and parcel of their eagerness for Krishna's love. So that same Krishna in the mood of Sri Radha appeared to Sri Chaitanya Maharaj. While he was living in Jagannath Puri, one day he took rest. As he was resting, he had a dream. In the dream, he was seeing Krishna's Rasa Leela in Sri Vrindavan town. Krishna standing in his threefold bending form, playing his flute. And all gopis were dancing. And suddenly, his personal assistant, Govinda, he won't come up because it was time for them to do something. His new duties and whatever. So Govinda said, it is not time to wake up. So Lord Chaitanya came out of that state and performed some of his duties and then went to Jagannath's temple, to the darshan. And because when he saw Lord Jagannath, Jagannath was revealing himself to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was Radha Bhavaduni Subhalamani Krishna Swrupam. He saw Lord Jagannath standing in a threefold bending form, playing his flute, beautiful, beautiful, lotus-like eyes and curly silken black hair, encircling his beautiful moon-like face, his lips like the beam of fruit shining in the moonlight. Wonderful giant garland around his neck, standing below his moon. What a darshan Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had. He's standing behind the Gurudastana. On that day, according to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, there were lakhs, hundreds and thousands of devotees and pilgrims who filled the temple. And they were all in front of Lord Chaitanya, between him and Jagannath. All scrambling to have darshan of Jagannath. While Lord Chaitanya was standing, gazing over all of them, the beautiful form of Shama Sundar. Suddenly, the simple lady from Orissa, she climbed on the Gurudastana. And then when she got high enough to support herself, she had one foot on the Gurudastana and one foot she put on Lord Chaitanya's shoulder. And from that elevated perspective, she was gazing upon Lord Jagannath. Govinda, the Lord's assistant, seeing this, very defense, in the purple tree of all of his pride. Guru is a great devotee. Climbing on the Guru's Dhamma, having her foot on the Buddha is Vaishnava Maharaj. And having her foot supported on Lord Chaitanya's shoulder is really Vaishnava Maharaj. So Garuda took her down. And as soon as Govinda took her down, Lord Chaitanya, he chastised the arisen lady. He chastised Govinda. He called out, "Oh, uncivilized man, do not forbid her from climbing the Gurudastana. Do let her see Lord Jagannath to her full satisfaction." Meanwhile, because of Govinda, the woman, she understood what she had done. She didn't know what she was doing. And she bowed down and put her head at Lord Chaitanya's feet and was begging forgiveness. And while this was happening, Lord Chaitanya cried. He cried out, "Lord Jagannath has not given me this eagerness that he has given this woman. Lord Jagannath has not given me her eagerness to see him. She has absorbed her entire body, mind, and life in Lord Jagannath. And because she's so absorbed, she didn't even notice she was putting her foot on my shoulder. And when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called out, alas, how fortunate is this simple lady. This was Lord Jagannath, Lord Chaitanya's prayer. I pray at her feet that she may bestow upon me her eagerness to see Lord Jagannath. Her seeking shelter and her eagerness to seek shelter. How the Supreme Personality of Godhead humbled himself before that devotion. How Lord Chaitanya praised that devotion. What was her qualification? We don't find she was either a great ascetic or a great scholar. But she was just so eager to seek shelter and see Lord Jagannath. Lord Chaitanya was praying at her feet for that gift. So we are not concerned with impersonal liberation. When we hear from our Vaishnava literatures, we understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the all-attractive, all-beautiful, who has appeared before us as Shri Radha, Vrindavan children. To give us shelter. And according to the eagerness in which we strive to find that shelter, Krishna reveals himself and gives us shelter. Srila Prabhupada often quoted his Guru Maharaj, don't try to see Krishna, but try to serve Krishna in such a way that he's pleased to see you. So then the question, why this recent woman was so eager to see Lord Jagannath? It was Lord Chaitanya would not have praised her and appreciated so much if she was just trying to see Lord Jagannath. Her eagerness was not only to see Jagannath, but to be seen by Jagannath. She was surrendering everything. That absorption is something that is very rare. But when we're sincere and we try, we do the best we can. Krishna tells I will preserve what little you have and I will subsidize what you don't have. A few days ago we were at Gitanagar and we were remembering His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. And at one time, he was actually the most famous book distributor of Anand. And he was getting the most praise and appreciation for Sri Prabhupada. And at the very beginning of his distributing books at the library party, he and some others, they were in a room with Srila Prabhupada. And they asked Srila Prabhupada to go into these colleges and universities and libraries and trying to put full sets. It's quite incredible. Srila Prabhupada's vision and their enthusiasm to develop it. Going to a college and convincing the professors not only to take all of Srila Prabhupada's books, but to sign a contract that any books that are ever published in the future they will buy. And they were getting orders everywhere. And Bhakti Tirtha Swami, they were all together. He was that Dhanasham, what's his name? He asked Srila Prabhupada, how should we do this? And Srila Prabhupada gave a simple instruction. And that instruction is universal in that it applies to every single devotee and every single service that we have or will ever have. And by following that instruction, Holiness is empowered. May I disclose? How should we do this? They had their little notebooks. They were ready to take all kinds of notes down. Srila Prabhupada said, just try your best. And depend on Krishna.
Haribol.
That's the answer. And that gives up to all of us. Whatever our shortcomings, if we just try our best, Krishna's pleased. If we just try our best and depend on Krishna. So in Vrindavan, such a beautiful, wonderful, empowered community that Srila Prabhupada is eternally blessed. And he personally sent the deities, and personally named them Radha, Vrindavan, Chandra.
Haribol.
Years and years before Srila Prabhupada named his own son Vrindavan Chandra. So how special is that name to Srila Prabhupada? Community means our real purpose in all our relationships and all of our services is we're helping to appreciate and encourage each other in taking shelter of Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra under Srila Prabhupada's loving guidance.